As the specter of conflict looms large over Eastern Europe, Russian forces have made a dramatic statement by deploying an FPV drone to annihilate a French-made Crotale all-weather short-range surface-to-air missile system valued at nearly $9 million. This latest move underscores the escalating intensity of the conflict, where high-tech weaponry is pitted against the stark realities of war.
After the neo-Nazis committed a terrorist act in the Kursk region, everything fell into place. The idle chatter of unauthorized mediators about a beautiful world has stopped. Now everyone understands, even if they don't say it out loud. They understand that there will be no more negotiations until the enemy is completely defeated.
Our operation in the Kursk region, our combat work continues, steps are being taken. We control the designated areas, and I thank all our guys, all our units for continuing to replenish the exchange fund.
The Crotale, intended to intercept Russian helicopters, was obliterated using a relatively inexpensive FPV drone valued around 60,000 rubles, about $660.
Ukraine's last resources will be used up very quickly. It is a matter of time. Either the special military operation ends this year, or this year there will be a third world war. We're used to war, we can fight, we know how to fight. A call to all, take to the streets, stop your fascist leaders of your states.
The Crotale, intended to intercept Russian helicopters, was obliterated using a relatively inexpensive FPV drone valued around 60,000 rubles, about 660. Alordinov detailed that the Russian forces also successfully neutralized 8 pieces of Ukrainian military hardware, including a tank and 3 armored combat vehicles in their operational zone. The Russian Defense Ministry has reported significant Ukrainian casualties, with over 300 servicemen lost in the Kursk area within the last 24 hours. The total number of Ukrainian military losses since the conflict's onset now exceeds 4,700. Additionally, the Federal Security Service, FSB, has initiated criminal cases against several journalists, including CNN reporter Nick Paton Walsh and Ukrainian correspondents Olesya Borovik and Diana Butsko for alleged illegal border crossings in the Kursk region, according to TASS. The FSB plans to place these journalists on an international wanted list. In a related development, a railroad ferry loaded with 30 fuel tanks was targeted by Ukrainian forces on August 22nd at the port of Kavkaz in the Krasnodar region. The attack caused a Class 3 fire and led to the ferry sinking. Rescue operations have so far saved 13 crew members, with 4 hospitalized and 1 person still missing. Emergency response teams have deployed a floating barrier and treated the water surface with sorbent to contain the fuel spill. Russian President Vladimir Putin held a video call with local governors on August 22nd to address the escalating situation in Ukraine bordering regions. Alexei Smirnov, acting governor of Kursk, reported that over 133,000 people have been displaced from areas affected by the fighting, while more than 19,000 residents have stayed.
8 districts of the Kursk region, populated by 152,566 people, ended up in the zone of resettlement and evacuation. As of today, 133,190 people left. 19,376 people still remain in the area. We keep resettling people to safe places.
Governor Alexander Bogomaz of Bryansk highlighted emergency evacuation drills conducted in preparation for further conflict.
Yesterday evening, a sabotage reconnaissance group was trying to enter the territory of our country, breaking through the state border in the Kalmyksky district, but they were pushed back by the efforts of the Border Guard Department of Russia's FPV the defense ministry. The enemy got a fire defeat. The situation in the place of the fighting was stabilized, and it is under control now.
Putin also disclosed that Ukraine had attempted to strike the Kursk nuclear power plant, prompting Moscow to notify the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. The IAEA is expected to send experts to evaluate the situation at the plant.
The enemy was trying to hit the Kursk nuclear power plant overnight. The International Atomic Energy Agency has been informed. They promised to come themselves and send specialists to assess the situation. I hope that it will be done by them in the end.
Meanwhile, Vyacheslav Gladkov, governor of Belgorod, discussed measures taken to safeguard students for the upcoming school semester, including the construction of shelters and enhanced security at educational institutions. Ukraine's recent military offensive in Russia's Kursk region has effectively ended any chances for peace negotiations, according to the Russian Foreign Ministry. Spokesperson Maria Zakharova declared on Wednesday that Kyiv's actions have left no room for diplomatic discussions, signaling Russia's firm stance against engaging in talks following the escalation.
Who will negotiate with them after this, after the atrocities, the terror that they are committing against peaceful residents, the civilian population, civilian infrastructure, and peaceful facilities? This attempt by the Ukrainian armed forces to invade our territory a priori, I will emphasize once again what was said by the Russian leadership, a priori annuls any possibility of any negotiations with the bandit junta.
On August 6th, Ukrainian forces launched a surprise attack on the Kursk region, quickly capturing several villages, taking hundreds of prisoners, and prompting the evacuation of tens of thousands of civilians. The offensive reportedly caught Russian defenses off guard, leading to emergency conscription efforts to bolster their lines against Ukraine's advancing forces. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed that combat work continues in the Kursk region.
Our operation in the Kursk region, our combat work continues. Steps are being taken. We control the designated areas. And I thank all our guys, all our units for continuing to replenish the exchange fund.
He also noted ongoing discussions with international partners about unlocking $50 billion from frozen Russian assets, pressing for a mechanism to turn these funds into support for Ukraine's military and reconstruction efforts.
Today, we discussed our work with partners on advancing real decisions on the promised $50 billion from the frozen Russian assets. There have already been many political statements from our partners. There is still a lot being said about this, but we need a real mechanism.
Meanwhile, in eastern Ukraine, the battle for the strategic city of Pokrovsk has intensified. Ukrainian forces are deploying heavy artillery to defend against Russian advances toward this critical logistics hub. Local authorities have ordered evacuations as Russian troops close in, threatening to cut off a key defensive position for Ukraine. The situation in Pokrovsk is dire, with Ukrainian artillery units, including the 148th Artillery Brigade, using M777 howitzers to slow the Russian advance. A serviceman emphasized the critical nature of the fight, warning that losing Pokrovsk could be a devastating blow to Ukraine's defense of the Donetsk region.
How do I feel about Kursk operation? That's right. Let them, Ukrainian forces, advance, and then we will exchange our territories for theirs. We will stand here, kill them to the end, Russian forces, so that they do not go further, so that they do not enter Pokrovsk. They will not enter, we will not let them.
As the conflict rages on multiple fronts, the likelihood of a truce between Ukraine and Russia appears increasingly remote, with both sides entrenched in their positions and preparing for continued hostilities.